Did I just do a physical TBR video going through all of the books I own but have not read in hopes that it would make me stop buying books? Yes. Did it work? Clearly not. I have a book buying problem and I cannot be stopped. So many books I want to own even though I can't read all of them right away. Even though I can't read all of them right away, I just want to own them so I can look at them until I read them. It doesn't make any sense, but I can't stop buying books and I don't know how to stop. But I think there are worse things than buying books, so it's fine, I'm fine, we're fine. But anyways, I have acquired 15 new books. These are all fantasy and fantasy romance books because that is what I have been enjoying lately. I'm just gonna give you my overall thoughts and why I bought each one and why I wanna read them. If you've been here before, you know that I don't like to know very much about books before I read them. So I kind of just get like the general vibe and like what the book is generally about, and then I'll buy it if it sounds good. I don't read the full synopsis before I buy a book or anything. I like to go in blind, and so obviously I'm not going to give you the full synopsis either because I don't even know it, but you will get my overall thoughts. Let's just get into the books. First up, we have Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roerich. This is a dark fantasy romance book. I read the first book in the Legacy series by this author called Reign of Shadows and Endings. That is another dark fantasy romance book, and I absolutely loved it. It was an easy 5 stars for me, and so I want to read this series as well. Hopefully it's as good. I heard this one's a little lighter. It's not as dark as the Legacy series, so we will see, but I just really enjoy this author's writing, and so I'm like, I kind of want to read everything that she has put out, and I will continue to read any book that she puts out. And so I'm very excited to give this one a try. Up next, we have Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This is not normally a book I would pick up on my own, but I have heard nothing but good things about this book. Like every person I've seen talk about it has given it 5 stars. It's basically like a lit RPG book. It's like an apocalypse and it's being televised. So it's like a video game reality show type of thing. It's supposed to be really fun and funny, and I'm hoping I love it. It seems like a fun book just as like a palate cleanser in between books. I hope I love it as much as everyone else because everyone else has been giving it 5 stars. Like I literally have not seen a single bad review for this book yet. And so I'm very excited. I know there's like a few books in this series, so if I like this, I'll pick up those as well. But it's just something different, and I'm excited to give it a try. Then we have Gild and Glint, which are the first 2 books in the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. Normally, I'll just buy like the first book of a series, and then if I like it, I'll buy the rest of the series or like the next book. But I've heard that the first book isn't that good in this series, and then it gets better in the second book. So I'm like, okay, let me give the first book a try, and then I wanted to have the second book on hand so I can get straight into that afterwards, and then see if I really like it, because I don't think the first book will be a good enough decider whether or not I should read this series. So I'm like, let me just get both books so I can give this series a fair shot. I have heard such mixed things about the Plated Prisoner series. A lot of people hate on this series, a lot. However, I feel like it gets the same hate as the Kindred's Curse saga, and I loved that fantasy romance series, the Spark of the Everflame in those books. So if I love that, I have a feeling I'm gonna love this series because they get the same level of hate. And so that tells me that I'll like this. Since everyone hates it, apparently I'll like it. So I'm hoping I do love this. I think there's, what is there, like 5 or 6 books out now. And so if I do end up liking these first 2 books, I can just pick up the next few books and then just binge read all of them. Hopefully I love them, but we will see. Then we have This Wen Kingdom by Tahara Mafi. This is a YA fantasy romance book. I don't generally go for YA. It's just not totally my vibe all the time, but I've heard very good things about this. Erin, who is Booked and Busy here on YouTube, recommended this book, and I've noticed a lot of books we have similar thoughts on, so I was like, I'm gonna trust her opinion and pick up this. So I'm hoping I really like it. There are 2 other books after this. It is a completed trilogy. I hear it's very plot heavy, and then the romance is very much a subplot, which is what I personally prefer in fantasy romance books. I prefer fantasy romance over romantasy, which a lot of people say like fantasy romance is a fantasy book with romance, whereas romantasy is like a romance in a fantasy world. And I much prefer fantasy romance because I like a good plot. I need a good plot. As much as I love the romance, if there's not a good plot to go with it, then it kind of means nothing to me. So I'm hoping I like this, and I do like this cover. The hardcover was only $10 brand new, which isn't too bad for a hardcover. Tahara Mafi is the author of the Shatter Me series. I know that's very popular on like Book Talk and Booktube. I haven't personally read that, so if I end up liking this, maybe I'll pick up that series, but we will see. Then we have Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. Honestly, the hype got to me on this book. I have only seen good things about this book, and so I was like, fine, I'll pick it up. This is another YA fantasy romance book. It has been viral all over Booktube and Book Talk, and honestly, the hype got to me, so I picked it up. I think this will be a really easy read in between bigger series. I honestly don't know much about this book. I know it's like enemies to lovers, and the girl's like a witch and something something something. I don't know, but hopefully it's good. But I'm kind of unsure about this book, honestly. I don't always trust Booktube recommendations if I'm being honest, but hopefully I love it because I own it now. I think the second book comes out in 2025, if I remember correctly. So if I like this, then I have something to look forward to. A lot of people said towards the end of this book is like really heartbreaking, and so if I don't cry, I'm gonna be disappointed. Then we have Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. This is the 6th book in the Red Rising saga. I own the first 5. I've only read the first 3 books, but I was like, I need to complete my collection because I love this series so much. Even though I've only read the first trilogy, it's honestly my favorite series of all time as of currently. Who knows in a year or two. I'm excited to continue on this series. I've heard Dark Age, which is the 5th book, and Lightbringer are arguably the best 2 books in the entire saga, and so I'm excited to see if I agree and just get back into this world. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This is a grimdark fantasy book. I've been wanting to pick up this book for a long time because I've heard very good things about it. I hear Joe Abercrombie is like phenomenal at writing characters. So this is a very character heavy fantasy book. No one really seems to know the plot of this book, but the characters are fantastic apparently. So I'm hoping I love this because I do want to continue with the First Law trilogy and then read his other books as well after I finish this trilogy. And so I'm excited to give this one a try. Then we have The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 2nd book in the Mistborn trilogy. I have the first one, so I wanted to pick up the second one, and I just really like the hardcovers for this trilogy. I want to read the Mistborn trilogy and then get into the Stormlight Archives, and so it's going to take me a while to catch up on all of the books, but I'm excited to get into Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere and his entire universe. The 5th book in the Stormlight Archives comes out soon, or has it already come out? I don't totally know, but it's going to take me a while to catch up since those books are all over 1,000 pages. But I'm excited to read the Mistborn trilogy and then get into the Stormlight Archives. Then we have Blood Mercy by Bella Roth. This is the 1st book in the Blood Grace series. I think there's currently like 7 or 8 books out in this series. So if I do end up enjoying this, I got a lot of ways to go in this series to catch up. But I hear this is a very underrated fantasy romance book. It's very plot heavy and like there's a lot of politics and world building. So I hear it is a little bit more slow, but I've heard the mailman character is very sweet and it's refreshing from all the like moody mailman characters in most fantasy romance books. So I'm excited to read this, and I think this cover is so pretty and the spines will look so nice on the bookshelf. So even if I don't like this, at least it'll look pretty on my bookshelf, so that has to count for something. This first book is pretty chunky. I think each book gets even longer. This one's already over 600 pages, but personally I love a chunky book for fantasy romance. I prefer my fantasy romance books to be a little longer than shorter personally. So hopefully I love this. Then we have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is another fantasy romance book. I've honestly wanted to read this for a few months now, but I've been waiting for the hardcover to come out because I personally prefer hardcovers, and I have a feeling that I'm going to love this, and so I really wanted to make sure I had the edition I wanted. If I'm being honest, I am not one to care for sprayed edges. I like the hardcover, but I don't care for these blue sprayed edges. But all I know about this book is that obviously it's fantasy romance, something about dragons, and that's about it. I hear this writing is very flowery, and so I've seen people either absolutely love this book or they absolutely hate it, and there's very little in between. So I have a feeling I'm gonna love this book for whatever reason. It's just something in my soul is telling me I'm gonna like it. So hopefully I am correct and I'm not wrong, but I guess we will see. Then we have Storm of Secrets and Sorrow by Melissa K. Rorich. This is the 2nd book in the Legacy series. Again, the first book was an easy 5 stars for me. So I have a feeling this is also going to be 5 stars, and this is going to turn into a 5-star series. If I love this, I have a feeling this is going to become my all-time favorite fantasy romance series. The 3rd and final book in this series comes out at the very end of October, and so I want to read this now so that I can read that book on release day. I just love this series so much so far, even though I've only read the first book. I just have such a good feeling about this, and I love the writing, and I just cannot wait to get back into this world. Then we have all 3 books in the Rhaenyra. I literally don't know how to say that word, so hopefully that was correct. Rhaenyra Revelations Trilogy. It's technically 6 books when it was first published, but then they got like traditionally published. And there's technically 2 books in each of these books for 6 books total. I have heard very good things about this series. I don't normally buy every book in a series before I read the first one, because if I don't like the first one and I have the rest of the series, I'm going to be very annoyed that I spent the money on that. But honestly, I got this in a box set, and the box set was way cheaper than just buying the books individually. So I was like, hopefully I love it, because now I own all of them. But the 3 books are The Theft of Swords, Rise of Empire, and Hire of Novron. All I know about this series is that this is about like 2 thieves and they get into a bunch of stuff. Apparently it's very fast-paced, which I love a fast-paced, action-packed fantasy book. So I'm hoping I love this, because I was looking at Michael J. Sullivan's other series and other books, but everyone said that you should start with this series. So I'm like, okay, let me read this, and then if I love this, I can read his other books as well. The only thing I don't like about this series is I really don't like these covers, but hopefully the books themselves are good, because that's technically what really matters. But I am a sucker for a pretty cover, so that looks pretty on my bookshelf and nice to look at. But yeah, but that is all 15 fantasy and fantasy romance books we have today. Since I have all these new books, hopefully that means I don't buy any more books anytime soon, but who knows? I don't have very much self-control. So if you see me do another book haul anytime soon, someone please yell at me and tell me to stop, because I really do need to stop. But that is all. Thank you so much for watching and joining me for this video. I appreciate you so much. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. I love you. Bye.